Good evening. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. We begin with a story that sounds like something from a spy thriller, but is very real. A foreign national has been arrested at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for attempting to smuggle a most unusual cargo, 2,000 live queen ants. This is not a minor offense. It represents a serious threat to Kenya's biodiversity and a lucrative, shadowy corner of the global illegal wildlife trade. Tonight, we take a deep dive into the arrest of Chinese national Zhang Kequan, the potential value of his insect cargo, estimated at $7,700 or £5,800, and what this case reveals about the sophisticated networks targeting Kenya's natural resources. We'll examine the legal framework, the ecological risks, and the ongoing investigation that authorities say links this individual to a broader anti-trafficking operation. This is a 12-minute special report. Our first chapter, the Interception. On a routine day at JKIA, security personnel at Terminal 1A made a startling discovery. During a standard baggage check for a flight bound for Guangzhou, China, scanners flagged an anomaly in the luggage of passenger Zhang Kequan. Upon physical inspection, officers found not drugs or currency, but dozens of small, specially designed plastic containers. Inside each one was a single, live queen garden ant, accompanied by a handful of worker ants. The total count was staggering, 2,000 queens. Each queen is the potential founder of an entire colony, making this not a collection of insects, but a shipment of biological factories. Zhang was immediately detained by officers from the Kenya Wildlife Service, KWS, and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI. He was presented before the Makadara law courts, where investigators stated he was linked to an anti-trafficking network. The suspect has yet to enter a plea or publicly respond to the charges. Let's visualize the scale of this attempted smuggling operation. Moving to Chapter 2, the motive and the market. Why would anyone risk international arrest for ants? The answer lies in a growing global niche, the exotic pet and collector market. In parts of Asia, particularly China, Japan, and South Korea, keeping elaborate ant colonies as living art is a popular and sometimes expensive hobby. Rare species, especially large, visually striking queens from biodiverse regions like East Africa, can command high prices from enthusiasts. Authorities have valued this specific consignment at $7,700, or approximately 1.1 million shillings at current exchange rates. But that's just the surface value. A single, successfully established colony bred from a captured queen can generate hundreds of offspring, which are then sold individually, multiplying the profit exponentially. This creates a powerful financial incentive. Furthermore, some ant species are sought for their potential use in traditional medicine or even for bioassays in pharmaceutical research, though these markets are less documented. The demand is driving a quiet but persistent extraction of insects from ecosystems worldwide, with Kenya emerging as a prime target due to its rich insect diversity. Here is the stated value of the intercepted cargo, shown in two key currencies. Chapter 3, the Ecological Threat. This is far more than a story about quirky pets. The illegal export of live insects poses profound ecological risks, both for Kenya and for the destination countries. Dr. Aisha Mwamba, a leading entomologist at the National Museums of Kenya, explains the primary danger. The introduction of a non-native ant species into a new environment can be catastrophic. They can outcompete local ant species for food and territory, disrupt pollination networks by preying on native pollinators, and even damage agricultural systems. Invasive ants are among the world's most damaging pest groups, causing billions in economic damage annually. Kenya's garden ants, adapted to local conditions, could become an invasive nightmare in China's ecosystems. Conversely, if smuggled insects escape during transit, they could introduce foreign pathogens or parasites into Kenya's own ant populations. The KWS treats this not as a minor customs violation, but as a serious biosecurity breach. Every queen ant represents a potential ecological time bomb. To understand the risk, consider the destructive power of established invasive ant species globally. Chapter 4, the Legal Battlefield. The arrest of Zhang Kequan will test Kenya's legal framework for combating wildlife crime. He is being charged under the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act of 2013. This act provides for severe penalties for the illegal collection, possession, or export of any wildlife species, which explicitly includes invertebrates like insects. Conviction can lead to a fine of up to 20 million shillings or imprisonment for life or both. However, prosecuting such cases presents unique challenges. Proving intent and commercial scale is difficult. Defense lawyers may argue the ants were for personal, scientific, or educational use, which requires different permits. The prosecution must demonstrate he was part of a trafficking network, as investigators have alleged. Furthermore, international cooperation with Chinese authorities will be crucial to trace the intended recipients and dismantle the network. This case could set a significant precedent, signaling that Kenya will aggressively pursue not just traffickers of elephants and rhinos, but also those targeting its smaller, yet ecologically vital creatures. Let's break down the key charges and potential penalties under Kenyan law. Chapter 5: The Investigation and the Network. The court hearing revealed that Zhang Kekwin is not believed to be a lone actor. Investigators stated he is linked to an anti-trafficking network. This suggests a level of organization. How does such a network operate? Typically, a collector or a series of collectors in Kenya capture the target species, in this case, queen ants, which are most easily captured during their seasonal nuptial flights. The insects are then stabilized and packaged by middlemen, often using modified containers that provide minimal air and moisture. Couriers, who may be paid tourists, business travelers, or dedicated smugglers, then attempt to move the cargo through airports or seaports, sometimes using concealed compartments or mislabeling packages as harmless goods. On the other end, distributors receive the shipment and sell to collectors or breeders. The use of a foreign national as a direct courier points to a transnational operation with contacts in both Kenya and China. The DCI and KWS are now likely tracing financial transactions, communication records, and travel patterns to map this network's full extent. We can outline the typical structure of such an insect trafficking network. Chapter 6: Perspectives and Debate. This case opens a broader debate about resource protection and enforcement priorities. From one perspective, represented by conservation groups, this arrest is a major victory. This interception is a testament to the vigilance of our airport security and wildlife authorities, says James Mwangi of the East African Wildlife Society. They argue that every successful prosecution deters others and protects Kenya's natural heritage, which is a key asset for tourism and ecological stability. The government's stance appears aligned with this view, treating the case with high seriousness. However, a counter-perspective questions resource allocation. Some critics ask whether the intense focus on one man with ants diverts attention from larger, more systemic issues like corruption within wildlife agencies or the massive poaching of big game. While this arrest is good, notes political analyst Linda Chebbett, we must ensure it is not a publicity stunt that masks inadequate funding for routine patrols in our national parks or for combating the timber and sand harvesting cartels that cause daily devastation. There is also the diplomatic dimension. How will the Kenyan government navigate relations with China, a major trade and infrastructure partner, while aggressively prosecuting one of its citizens? The handling of this case will be watched closely by both conservationists and the business community. Finally, Chapter 7: The Big Picture and What's Next. The attempt to smuggle 2,000 queen ants is a microcosm of a global problem. The illegal wildlife trade, worth an estimated $23 billion annually, increasingly includes insects, reptiles, birds, and plants. It is a diversified criminal enterprise. For Kenya, this incident highlights a vulnerability. JKIA is a major hub, and while it caught this shipment, how many others slipped through? It calls for enhanced training for customs and security personnel to recognize unconventional wildlife products, better scanning technology, and stronger intelligence sharing with international partners like Interpol and the World Customs Organization. The immediate next steps are clear. Zhang Kekwin will remain in custody as the prosecution builds its case. The KWS will conduct a detailed taxonomic analysis of the seized ants to confirm their species and origin. The investigation will expand to identify his local contacts and international receivers. In the longer term, this event should catalyze a review of Kenya's biosecurity protocols at all points of entry and exit. Public awareness also matters. Citizens need to understand that the illegal taking of any wildlife, from a butterfly to an ant, is a crime that harms the nation. In conclusion, the strange case of the 2,000 queen ants is a stark reminder that the value of nature is not always measured in tusks or horns. It exists in the intricate, often overlooked creatures that maintain the balance of our ecosystems. The arrest at JKIA is a significant blow against a hidden trade, but it is only one battle in a much longer war to protect Kenya's biological sovereignty. The legal proceedings that follow will be a crucial test of resolve. Thank you for watching this deep dive investigation. For continuous updates on this case and all news from across the country, remember to subscribe to Kenya News Update today.